Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for standing by. Welcome to the new in SIP Server 8.1 support of transfer type extension in T-Route call. During the presentation, all participants will be in listen-only mode. Afterwards, we will conduct a question-and-answer session. If you have a question, please press the 1 followed by the 4 on your telephone. At that time, your line will briefly be accessed from the conference to obtain information. If at any time during the conference you need to reach an operator, please press *0. As a reminder, this conference is being recorded Wednesday, April 18, 2012. I would now like to turn the conference over to Sergey Turanov, Tier 3 Support Engineer. Please go ahead, sir.
Hi, good morning. My name is Sergey, and today we are going to talk about call routing and some new feature which is actually kind of not something new but just a utility to existing one. SIP Server today has basically 3 methods of call routing. How call routing is performed? It's usually at API level performed in exactly the same way by all Genesis servers, SIP Server included. This is a T-Route call, T-Library function. On the lower level of, at implementation level of this request in SIP Server, there are actually 3 ways to do that at SIP layer. First one is invite. Another one is refer with out of signaling path. And the third one is refer without signaling, getting out of signaling path, meaning that SIP Server is, after sending this refer, SIP Server is still in signaling path. Invite method is basically the simplest one. It's component independent, meaning that any SIP entities participating in communication with SIP Server will basically support it. I don't know any SIP entities today which wouldn't support invite. That makes it like common denominator for call routing. Refer with out of signaling path method is like opposite to invite, meaning that all participants must support this refer method, and this is not actually, let's say, in today, even few years ago, when SIP wasn't so mature, many SIP entities were not able to handle refer method, even though it's clearly described in RFCs. But today, it's actually absolutely normal that everyone supports it. That makes it actually not something rare or hard to use in your deployments. For refer method to work for call routing, all components must support it. What's the benefit of it? It's resource optimization, meaning that if SIP Server went out of signaling path, then we avoiding 2 or more additional SIP dialogues. It's actually good for media gateways which don't have to keep those SIP dialogues. Again, that makes call topology optimized. We don't have any so-known trombones. We don't have any unnecessary SIP dialogues. It decreases load on the system. The third method is refer with staying in signaling path. It's basically very similar from high-level point of view to the first method, invite. But I would say that from my point of view, invite is better. We'll talk about it later. And why? Because this refer with staying in signaling path is subject to scenario limitation. I will describe it a bit later. Invite method for call routing doesn't require basically any provisioning. It's a default method of routing. For example, you don't have to configure any SIP server options nowhere, neither at SIP application level nor at participating in call scenario DMs level. Here the underlying SIP flow and key library request flow diagram. Let's start from the following. I'm going to represent all our call routing scenario examples based on the following call flow. We have inbound call from some external party. It would be represented by inbound trunk DM in CME. We have SIP server. The call is made to some local routing point at SIP server. And the destination of call routing will also be external party, not some internal DM like another routing point. Why I selected this call flow? Because it's most representative. I mean, it's very suitable to create examples for all three methods, and it's very simple. It's obvious. So how this call routing using invite will look like? We have inbound invite to SIP server saying I'm calling to some routing point. SIP server will match this invite. Actually, it would be used for the purposes via header of that invite to match it to some trunk DM. In our example, that's trunk 1. SIP server got this invite. It will generate event route request, and that would be a sign for your routing strategy to start routing procedure for this call. Usually, the call is secured at routing point using some kind of treatment. In our example, that's request apply treatment. I removed, for simplicity, the stream manager or media platform objects from this picture as not important, but when you apply treatment, either stream manager or GVP or some other IVR, depends on your deployment, will be involved and will provide media services. SIP server will get SDP from that media provider and will send back 200 OK back to that invite with that SDP. We'll get back from caller X message, and starting from that point, the call is SIP dialog is established. SIP server considers that treatment has been started. Event treatment applied is generated. That's it. Call is secured, and it won't go anyway until either we're out call or treatment has ended. Now your routing strategy selects some target and sends request route call. This request route call will have other DM attribute specifying the routing target. In our case, let's assume that the target is external, meaning that SIP server will not find anything local for that target, and hence it will select some destination. In our case, that would be trunk 2 DM from CME. SIP server will send invite to that trunk, will get some provisional response, for example, 180 ringing, and that provisional response will be interpreted as success of routing. So SIP server will generate event route used, and later we'll get some 200 OK to our invite. That's 200 OK. This is our invite. That 200 OK will have SDP, will provision it back to the caller. You can see this invite back to the caller. Caller will accept it, will confirm it with destination, and finishing the whole transaction with ACK back to the caller. So this is the simplest SIP layer diagram for call routing. The second routing method, that would be refer with getting out of signaling path. Configuration is basically pretty simple. You will have to set OSP transfer enabled option to true at both caller and routing destination trunk DMs. This configuration will make SIP server perform call routing using refer with getting out of signaling path, and the diagram will look like this. You can see that I marked required configuration at caller and destination side. The start is pretty much the same. We get an invite. We are applying treatment. The dialog is completed, event treatment applied, reported. And now, when your routing strategy sends request route call, starts the difference. Instead of going to the destination with some invite, we are going back to the caller with refer. And that refer has standard refer to header pointing to the destination. So caller will accept that refer, and then the following SIP transaction, SIP dialog will be created. The caller will directly send invite to the destination. They will establish a SIP dialog, and if it's successful, the caller will notify us about, okay, here is notify with 200 OK in body saying, I performed refer successfully. We'll interpret this notify 200 OK as success of routing. Please note that we don't see all these things. This new dialog goes out of SIP server visibility. It doesn't see it. Those lines with dashes are not visible to SIP server. That's the point. After this transaction completed, after this routing finished, SIP server doesn't see anything on this call at SIP level. Hence, it doesn't control it. The third method of routing is pretty much the same as refer with getting out of signaling path, and provisioning requires OSP transfer enabled and refer enabled options being set to true and false at origination, and it must be set to false at destination trunk. Here is how this SIP diagram will look like. First part is, you can notice the special note here, that before SIP server will be able to perform this refer method routing with staying in SIP signaling path, the call must be answered at some point. The dialog must have been established somewhere. For example, that was a direct call from caller through SIP server right to GVP port. GVP answered it, and then it transferred it back to SIP server routing point. So this step, the call must have been established somewhere, is a must for this method to work. That's the limitation. It's not intuitive, it's not obvious, but that's the requirement of this refer. So once the call got transferred to routing point, after it was answered somewhere before, and event treatment applied, your routing strategy selects some target and sends request route call with that target, pointing to something which will be represented in SIP server memory by trunk 2. You can see that at SIP level, SIP server sends that refer to the caller. So it might look like the same as refer with out of signaling path, but it's not, because in that refer, the refer to header host purpose that URI points not to destination, but it points to SIP server itself. The point of this substitution is SIP server wants to stay in signaling path. So it says, hey, I want you to refer the call to myself, to me, to SIP server. Caller accepts this request and sends invite not to the destination, but to SIP server. SIP server just proxies it to destination. The new dialog is established. Caller, once it's established, says, I'm fine, I performed the transfer, and this notify will be the identification of successful routing completion. You can see that comparing to refer with OSP, SIP server remained in call path. Here is the dialog. This dialog, consisting of two legs, two separate SIP dialogues. This call consists of two separate SIP dialogues, and SIP server is still in control. It still can do something to this call, transfer it, drop it, route it, anything. Okay. So we reviewed three call routing SIP methods at SIP server level. Until now, those routing methods, you could configure which routing method to use only using configuration options. You can't say, for example, depending on some call information data which you analyzed in your routing strategy, this call I want to be routed using some, for example, OSP method, and this one I want to use good old invite method. Now, SIP server supports this ability, and that's the point of our webinar. How it's done, how it's implemented. Now you can, in trout call, you can specify in extension attribute special key. Its name is transfer type. And here we have TPO. This T must be in uppercase. Sorry. This key is case sensitive, and possible values are invite. When you specify it like that, invite request will be used for routing method. OSP, that will imply that refer with OSP is used, and refer, that would imply that refer with staying in signaling path will be used. This feature allows you to dynamically select SIP method for routing. It doesn't rely on static configuration options. that means that it actually overrides those options, meaning that even if without this transfer type in trout call, you would normally get it, for example, out of signaling path routing according to configuration. When you specify this transfer type in trout call, it overrides that static configuration and will allow you to do, for example, refer or invite. This functionality originally, this transfer type extension, has been implemented as a part of SIP server federated solution in 8.1 GA release. It's kind of, this federation solution is some kind of centralized guiding plan deployment when you have a lot of switches, different Cisco, Asterisk, normal TDM switches, and with some media gateways, and you want to keep dialing plan centralized. That's kind of purpose of that federated solution. Anyway, it's pretty much specific thing, and later it was decided to make this transfer type feature publicly available, not only in federated solution. It has been implemented in version starting 8.1.00040, and now this transfer type key is accepted in any version of SIP server starting from that version. Here is how a typical usage example looks like. That's our trout call, and that's how we specify it. You use extension attribute of that trout call and add transfer type key there with desired value. Let's review every of those values. Let's start from invite. It's as any other value, it overrides the static configuration. It uses invite method to connect our origination trunk DM with destination trunk DM, and SIP server staying in signaling path and controls the call. Here, how SIP diagram will look like when you specify transfer type invite in your request route call. So basically, you don't see any difference from static configuration, except that you can see that there is no any configuration here. Any static configuration is not specified. If you specify something here, for example, you set here OSP transfer enabled true and OSP transfer enabled true at both trunks, you will still have this invite method of routing, just because you specified transfer type invite in the request route call. It overrides it. This is the second routing type. If you specify OSP value in transfer type key, refer method is used to connect our trunk DMs, and as a result, you will have SIP server out of signaling path. That's our diagram. You can see that it's exactly the same as static configuration, with exceptions that you can see there is no any OSP transfer enabled true options being configured for origination and destination. You don't have to configure anything. You specify all you need in request route call. As I said, it's the same for all transfer type extensions. It overrides static configuration. SIP server remains in signaling. No. That's refer. 1 second. We jumped. Oh, okay. Sorry about that. We finished with OSP transfer type value, we move into the last one, transfer type refer. Again, refer method is used to connect the origination party and destination party. SIP server remains in a signaling path comparing to OSP routing type. This refer method with keeping SIP server in signaling path, it cannot be used if the call wasn't previously answered by remote party. That would be our trunk DM2 or some other party actually. That's the limitation of this transfer type key value. I can tell that I don't actually see, I haven't seen any customer use cases so far where this transfer type would be beneficial. All use cases I've seen were successfully resolved either by transfer type invite or transfer type OSP. This refer is actually covered in this presentation just to have a complete picture of all possible transfer type key values. In reality, I don't see how it's better than invite value. SIP server remains the same as in invite version. SIP server remains in call path. We have more SIP messages for this refer routing method, and that's no good. We have a limitation which says that the call must be answered before this type can be used. Transfer type invite is not subject to this limitation. So for me, let's say I'm a customer, for me it would be the last possible transfer type I would consider using, because I see no actually benefit in it so far. Maybe there are some use cases where it could be employed, but I don't know such cases at the moment. If for example, you send T-route call with transfer type refer and the call hadn't been answered yet, so T-server, due to the limitation above, can't use it. It won't rely on static configuration then. It won't just disregard this transfer type refer key. It will work like if transfer type invite is specified. So it will route the call using invite method. That's not obvious behavior, and you should know about that. Here is a diagram of refer method specified in transfer type. You can see that, again, the establishment phase is a must for this thing to work. We don't have any configuration required at trunks levels. And this part is actually pretty much the same as in static configuration. Notify 200 OK is interpreted as success of routing used. Actually, there is a special configuration option in SIP server which says which payload in which message in notify we should use as trigger for thinking, okay, routing is successful. So you can actually have something else than just 200 OK in notify. Let's say you want it to have to make SIP server think that routing is finished already and successful by 800 something, and you can do that. Yeah, this is basically all on technical side. I'll pass the word to Kira. Kira? I want to add a few notes which are not covered in this presentation. The idea, as I said, we consider it very simple scenario when it's an inbound call represented in SIP server by some trunk VM, and the call from routing point is again sent to some external destination. Please note that the scenario might be different if your origination or destination are internal parties. For example, when you route your call from routing point, which is local party, to SIP server, to some another routing point, which is also internal party, there is no much sense in OSP. There is no much sense in OSP method of transfer, because OSP method implies that I want to get out of signaling path. And if the transfer destination, routing destination, is still at SIP server domain, it makes no sense to use that transfer type, and SIP server might disregard that request and use just reinvite method. Okay, and actually on technical side I'm finished, and we'll go to wrap up. Genesis University also suggests several basic troubleshooting workshops on T-server, stat server, and universal routing server. Also, it has troubleshooting workshop on outbound solution. There is a standard link for getting more information. We have pretty extensive KCS database. It has, among many almost useless articles, it has gems. So we recommend to look at those. What else? There is a new webinar on the way. It's going to cover e-services troubleshooting, and it's going to happen on 13th of June. Well, that's pretty much it. So I'm ready for technical questions. Any question?
Ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to register a question, please press the 1 followed by the 4 on your telephone. You will hear a 3-tone prompt to acknowledge your request. Your line will then be accessed from the conference to obtain information. If your question has been answered and you would like to withdraw your registration, please press the 1 followed by the 3. If you're using a speakerphone, please lift your handset before entering your request. One moment, please, for the first question. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, as a reminder, to register for a question, please press the 1 followed by the 4. One moment, please. It won't be long. We will have a question. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, as a reminder, to register for a question, please press the 1 followed by the 4. Very good. It won't be long. Our first question coming from the line of Savasamaka Murugesan. Please proceed with your question.
Hi, good morning. I'm calling from Torrance, California, actually. In this session, yeah, it was useful technically, but at a high level, with the support of transfer type extension, what will be the business advantage or business, how it will be used for the business?
Which transfer type?
Whatever we discussed now.
Oh,
in this session.
Okay. Let me describe.
Or I'll put it this way: what kind of issue we have right now that will be, improved by this new transfer type availability?
The idea, well, when you have it configured statically, you can't make the decision how your call should be routed per call basis in your strategy. Now you can. For example, your SIP server routes the call. It works with several media gateways, and it sends routing calls to different destinations, which are behind the same trunk. And you wanted to, for example, one call which you send to Cisco Call Manager premise switch, you want it to be delivered there, and SIP server, you want SIP server to stay in the call path, and another call from the same SIP server, from the same routing point, but being routed to, for example, Avaya PBX, you want SIP server to get out of the signaling path. And now you can do that not having static configuration. You can do this just by your strategy. It identified the call, it knows the destination switch, and says, okay, if I send it to Cisco Call Manager, then transfer type is invite. If I'm sending it to Avaya target, then transfer type is OSP. You can't do that without that extension just using configuration option. That's a business case which I've seen in my experience. Maybe there are some other. I don't know.
Yeah. So this will be updated, this invite and refer, all these options will be updated in CME again and will be used during runtime, right?
No. This transfer type is not an option. This is not a configuration option which you configure in CME. This is the thing which you put in your routing strategy. Your routing strategy, when it routes the call, you can specify there is a standard extension attach or extension update function. This is the name in IRD, Interaction Routing Designer, the tool where you develop your routing strategies. So you can use those functions there and say, okay, I want to attach transfer type key with value, whatever you want, invite or OSP. And after that, your routing strategy, at the point where it will route the call, it will use that transfer type key in T-route call. So you don't, to use this feature, you don't have to configure anything in CME. You use it in your routing strategy design.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot.
Welcome.
Thank you. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, if you wish to register for a question, please press the 1 followed by the 4. Our next question coming from the line of Fang Li. Please proceed with your question.
Hi, my question is like this. We have 2 gateways with the 2 trunk DN configured pointing to each gateway. Basically, we're making outbound calls from one of the gateway through the SIP server. So SIP server generates outbound call.
Mm-hmm.
And then we transfer the call from a client to the agent on Avaya switch. So SIP server initiates outbound call to the customer. One is detected live answer. We transfer the call to the Avaya agent. We would like to keep the 2 call legs on the same gateway. So outbound call on the trunk 1. So the transfer the call to agent, we would like that call leg also on trunk 1. Is that possible through this mechanism?
Well, what you are talking about is actually, I would say that this extension, transfer type, is useless for this thing. But to do what you want, to keep all the things through the same gateway, I believe it would be enough to use geolocation option. There is such option. It's named GEO-location. So you have 2 gateways, as you said, gateway 1 and gateway 2. So you want, if the call is dialed, outbound call, is dialed through gateway 1 and customer has answered it, then you want to make SIP server use the same gateway 1 when you send in this call to the agent, right?
That's right, yes.
So you actually can specify different geolocations for gateway 1 and gateway 2. But if you use this, actually transfer type can be used here. You can put, when your SIP server routes the call to the agent, you can specify transfer type OSP in your T-route call. That will effectively make SIP server send that refer to the call origination. And in our case, that origination party is customer, is the gateway through which we outdialed call originally. So just make a test. When you send the call to agent, attach transfer type with value OSP to your T-route call. It should help.
OSP?
OSP. Let me show you in the slide. 1 second.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one. 1 second.
Yeah.
That's what you want.
We tried this one on the trunk DN. So we have a trunk DN set up with the OOSP equals, transfer OOSP equals refer. But we can't see the targeting the same trunk ID, trunk DN. They always go to the round robin. The outbound call goes to trunk 1 and transfer the call always go to trunk 2. Which engage 2 gateways. So.
As far as I know, the gateway as the destination for SIP server, when SIP server wants to send some invite somewhere, it uses prefix options of the destinations. So it tried to find local destination for that customer number. Obviously, it didn't find it, right? It's an external number. So it started looking some outbound trunk DN for it. And it selects an applicable, the best trunk DN by prefix. So if you, for example, have prefix on gateway 1, you have a prefix 9.1, for example, and on gateway 2 you have prefix 8.1. Yeah. So if SIP server, if you dial in some 9100465 number to the customer, then obviously gateway 1 will be selected, and that's where the call will be sent to invite. But then when your customer answered the call, and now you have a SIP dialer going through this gateway 1, and now you want to send this call to the agent, and you want it to be performed using the same gateway 1, that T-route call, where in other DN attribute you specify your target agent, since it's again external to SIP server, it's at Avaya. This is remote agent. It's not registered at SIP server. There is no DN at SIP switch for this agent, right? So SIP server again wants to find destination trunk DN, and according to what you are saying, it always selects another gateway. It won't select gateway 1, right? And this is what we want. But if that would be the problem for invite method, but for refer method, it shouldn't be the problem. If you specify, for example, this configuration statically, that would be option OSP transfer enabled true. If you set it to true at gateway 1, then since the origination and destination are supposedly the same, it should be okay, but it didn't work that way.
Yeah, I think what I will give it a try to see if it works.
Well, I suggest you the following. Try the transfer type OSP method first. And if it doesn't work, then I guess you have to open service request.
Yeah. I do have a service request in place.
On this thing? On this problem?
On this kind of an issue right now. We're trying to target the same gateway for the two different call legs. But, you know, at the time, we don't have a transfer type. This is new configuration we can use in the strategy. But I can give it a try to see if that works.
Well, if... one second, let me think. Refer.
Yeah, I don't want to hold this question too long. Maybe some other people have a question. Yeah.
If you let me just give you some pointers how SIP server works, and maybe it will help you to find out why the gateway 2 is selected. When your routing strategy tries to send this call to agent at Avaya, your routing strategy sends T-route call, and the target agent DN actually, is specified in other DN attribute. So now SIP server, since this is an external routing, an external routing transaction will take place, meaning that your SIP server will send some request to Avaya T server, or do you even have T server? I mean Genesis T server over Avaya switch.
Yes.
Yes. Then SIP server will send some request to Avaya server, not switch, Avaya server, saying, okay, I want to deliver a call to some agent at you, and it will specify that agent. For example, agent DN555, right? Avaya server will allocate some local external routing point and will send back to SIP server dial string. This dial string is what SIP server should dial to reach that external route point. And now SIP server got this dial string and starts parsing it, meaning that it will see that this is not some local point at SIP server, so I need to find some outbound trunk DN, and at this point it will use prefixes to match, to find out some applicable trunk DN, which represents gateway. So based on what you've told me, it looks like that dial string always applicable only to gateway 2. And for some reason, it's not. It can't be to dial this dial string. Gateway 1 can't be selected. So this is the thing you need to look at. You need to look at what dial string Avaya server returned to SIP server and how SIP server tried to select outbound trunk DN to dial that dial string.
You know, it's easy to control the prefix for the external route point because that's what we configured. We can use the prefix or whatever, you know, to control to set up the trunk DN with a prefix, right? However, we cannot match that prefix with the customer number. Because on the trunk 1, we dial the customer through the outbound canteen. So without customer, we cannot control the prefix. We have, all different areas that we call the customer. We cannot guarantee the prefix for customer and the prefix for external route point is going to match. So that's the reason it's really hard to use a prefix mechanism to match the call on the same gateway.
Well, I think that all this information needs to be put into SR, right?
Yeah.
If it's not already there.
Yeah. I think, that's enough for my question. I will do some testing with this new type transfer type.
Mm-hmm.
You can make it work. Okay. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Thank you. Mr. Taralanov, there are no further questions at this time, and we'll now turn the call back to you.
Okay.
This is Sergey Terikhanov. There was a question about usage of attribute extension in the routing strategy. So there should be a function extension attach invoked with the TVP and then trout call.
Very good. It won't be long. We'll have another question on the phone line. Thank you. Our next question coming from the line of Sean Murphy. Please proceed with your question.
But what's the benefit of not having the SIP server involved controlling the call?
Well, I've seen such things in some big deployment when SIP server is just used as a routing platform or some agent before GVP, let's say. And customers have mostly their logic somewhere else than SIP server. So the call was sent to SIP server / GVP for treatments and was expected to return the call back after some, let's say, voice self-service script has finished and GVP returns the call back. And the customer wanted to remove us from this picture, I mean GVP or SIP server. The point is that if you won't do that, you will have the call tromboned. I mean, from media gateway, you have SIP dialog going to SIP server. That's how the call entered to SIP server GVP. And then you will have another SIP dialog, absolutely separate, going basically to the same media gateway. And instead of having just pure, clean call, single call in media gateway, you will have actually in your media gateway statistics 2 calls ongoing, even though this is a single one. This is not optimal usage of resources. This is not good for reporting at gateway side. So the benefit of not having SIP server in such deployments, when SIP server did something to the call, then returned it back, and then nothing else is expected to be done further on Genesis side, then it's definitely beneficial to have it removed from signaling path.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, as a reminder, to register for a question, press the 1 followed by the 4. Thank you. There are no more questions at this time.
Okay. If this is it, then thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for attending this webinar.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that does conclude the conference call for today. We thank you for your participation and ask that you please disconnect your line. Have a great day.
Thanks.